Hi guys, it's Mel here from Thermomix. Just thought I would give you a rundown of some cleaning tips over this Christmas period. If yours is like mine, it's getting a real workout and is pretty dirty right about now. So just some cleaning tips. First of all, make sure you unplug your machine. If you haven't seen these already, these mini Vacs are available in the mix shop and they're awesome for just getting in these little nooks and crannies here. Make sure you're using just a nice wet cloth, not a rough one that might scratch. So you can just give your base unit a good wipe over. When it comes to the screen, you might want to use a cloth that's more designed for cleaning windows and not leaving any sort of residue behind. So it gives you a better clean for your screen. If your screen has food or water or anything like that, it can make your modes and things jump around. So you've got to make sure your touch screen is always clean and dry. When it gets to the little nooks and crannies in these arms up here, I find some little brushes really handy to sort of really get in there and just give the grime a bit of a scrub. You want to make sure that your cloths and things that you use are only just damp. You don't ever want too much moisture around your machine. You don't want any extra water going where it shouldn't. You can just get into these areas with some little brushes. When it comes to your little round unit in the middle here, I find that if you use like a little toothpick, and you can just run it around the edges just to loosen any items that might be stuck in there. And then I just get just a little cotton bud and just wipe out some of the stuff that is stuck in there. I just moistened it a little bit just to give it a bit of a clean. You don't want too much water going in this area at all. And you know, make sure it's nice and dry before you use it, so it gets a bit grimy in there. So we have the front. Now I'm going to spin it around and show you the back. Okay, so this is the back of the unit. Again, just a damp cloth to give it a wipe down. Now, if your machine is or has these holes sort of blocked from food residue, it can stop the amount of air that goes into the motor. So you need to make sure that these are clean. There is a little tiny area down the bottom here that you can actually put your finger in underneath and you can pull that cover off. So you can just clean out any grime that might have dripped down the back there. You want to make sure that these little covers here are nice and dry, that hasn't sucked in any lint or any food residue in there. So that is the back, and I'll show you the bottom. So to put the cover back on, you just place the top in to position. Those little side parts, you can just sort of pull it in the middle to make it sort of curve, and then you can just pop those side ones in, and then once they're in, you just give it a push and it's all back into position. Okay, so when it comes to the bottom, you want to just lay it on its back gently. It's perfectly okay to lie it down while you're cleaning it. The only time you really don't want to tip it over is if you've had a spillage. You don't want any water getting into places that you don't want it to be sort of in the circuitry. So again, you can just give it a nice clean, making sure that your feet are free of any residue, because that might impact on your scales. So make sure you give those a nice little wipe down there as well, making sure of course that this little cover across the bottom here is also clear of any dust and grime. You can give it a nice clean if you want to. If you want to be like super specific about your cleaning, you can get your little toothpick and you can get into these little crevices here and just get rid of any of that grime if you want to be super specific. Giving it a good clean. Now when it comes to tipping it back over, you've got to be very careful. You don't want to pivot on your feet. So you're going to just pick it up, and then whenever you pick up your machine, it comes straight up and down. You don't ever just want to sort of balance and pivot it just in case you impact on those scales. Now I'll give you a little bit of a rundown about the knob. Okay, so for everyday cleaning, you can get a cloth, just fold it in half, and you can just do these ones. Okay, so rubbing around your knob like this, and give it a good clean underneath. Now, it is not recommended in your normal everyday cleaning to pop this knob off and clean up underneath. The only time that you would need to get this off is that if your knob is being unresponsive, if it's jumping, if it's not actually stopping on the right number, or you can hear like a crunching sound happening sort of underneath. So if you have a TM5, one thing that you would want to check is your settings for your dial precision, because that can actually determine how many or how responsive your dial is, how many times you have to turn it before it will react. Okay, so this is the TM5, and I'm going to show you what I mean about the responsiveness of your dial here. So if you're turning, 5 times and you find that it's only moving 1 notch, okay, it's a newly introduced feature in just one of the last couple updates. So to change it, all you need to do is just go into your menu. You want to go down to settings. Then you want to scroll right down near the bottom, and we have Rotary Precision. So this has just been newly added. And once the update happened, they were all set to low, so that you can actually then go ahead and change that. I've turned mine up to high, so it's quite responsive. You can choose your level of responsiveness of your Rotary Precision. Now, to pop it off, you do need a little bit of leverage. Okay, I find that the edge of my spatula, if you can just slide it underneath there, and you can just pivot as you pull. So you want it to come off fairly straight. So you can just pivot with the spatula as you pull. Now, it will sound like you've just snapped it when you've pulled it off. First time it happens, your heart will race and you think you've broken it. But it is designed to come off. You'll see that there is a little notch in the center here with 2 little lines. Okay, those 2 little lines line up with this flat part here when it comes to getting back on. So getting back on is where you need to be quite gentle with it, and I'll show you that in a second. So what you can do is, if there's grime in behind there, you can get in your cloth in there, depending on how dirty it is. You might need to get rid of some crusty little bits just with a toothpick, making sure again that you don't put any liquid in there. Now when it comes to putting back on, if you actually just gently rest the knob on, and then if you spin it, it will orientate the 2 flat pieces, and it will automatically just sit on there nice and flat. Then to get it back on, you just push it like you would to turn it on. Okay, and it clicks back on. So again, that one is not necessarily to do all the time, only if your knob is being unresponsive, or you know you've really dribbled a bunch of gunk in behind there. So just be careful with that one. And that is today's cleaning tips. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, I'll give you more tips as we go.